Hello all, I'm going to attempt my first cooking video and I'm not the best photographer, so I hope you can see me and I hope you can hear me. Today we're going to make spinach burritos, which is pretty healthy and pretty tasty. My staff at E-School loved it when I made it for breakfast, so I'm going to attempt to make that in front of you and then put this video on Facebook. First we need some spinach, and I use frozen spinach. I usually get chopped. This time I forgot and I got leaf spinach, but that's okay. You need to defrost your spinach first and then squeeze out the extra liquid in a sink with a colander and put it aside. Then you need to heat your olive oil. You know I'm not famous for measuring things, but I did measure out 2 tablespoons of oil. That seems to be the right amount. I'm going to let that heat a little, and then I'm going to put my onions in. I've cut up a half an onion, diced, about a quarter of a pepper, also diced, and about 2 stalks of celery, and I may not use all that celery. I'll probably use half of that. Okay, the oil should be hot enough. I'm going to put my onions in, and actually that's a little too hot. I'm going to turn that down. Turn that down. Okay, now the spices we're going to use here, I'm cheating today. I'm not using fresh garlic. I'm using garlic and parsley mixture. I also love adobo. It's a seasoning that it goes in almost anything you cook. I use it a lot. And I usually put a little oregano in this recipe. Okay, so my onions are starting to melt a little. I'm now going to add the peppers. And I'm going to add about half of this celery. That looks like a little too much celery. By the way, you can use any diced vegetables you want in these burritos. Sometimes I use red peppers. Sometimes I add some mushrooms. But some people don't like mushrooms, so I leave them out if I know the people don't like it. Okay, this is sauteing up. Let's see. Okay, now a big ingredient in this is eggs, which I forgot to put on the counter. So I'm going to the refrigerator to get the eggs. Now you'll need a mixing bowl for your eggs, because what I usually do is I use 2 whole eggs, which includes the yolk and the white, and then I use 8 egg whites, because the teachers like to be low calorie and stick to egg whites as opposed to a whole egg. But you can replace whole egg if you'd like. That's your decision. Now I'm noticing this is sticking a little bit, so I'm going to add maybe 1 more tablespoon of oil. And this is what you have to do when you cook. You have to look at your recipe all along the way, and if things are not working, you have to change them up. Okay? So now let me get my bowl for my eggs. Okay, I'm going to take 8 eggs. Actually 2 whole eggs, and then 8 egg whites. Now I'm sure you all know how to separate eggs to egg whites. You just go back and forth to the shell, and you can save your egg yolks if you have another recipe you want egg yolks for. I'm actually going to turn down this sauteing vegetables because they're getting a little too done. Let me just put my eggs over here. Separating our eggs here. Sometimes they're not very cooperative, like right now. But I think I got some egg yolk there. As I said, you can use the whole egg if you prefer. I usually like to keep it a little lower in calories and use just the egg whites of 8 eggs and 2 full eggs. And hopefully I'm getting no shells in this mixture, but you can see shells right away. And if you see the shells, you just pick them out. They come out fairly easily. Okay, that looks like about enough. I'm going to put that in. Actually, I think I needed one more egg. One more egg. Egg white, that is. Put that in. Okay, now I'm going to mix my eggs up. You can use a fork, you can use a whisk, whatever you like to beat eggs with. It's not really important. You're going to mix them as well as you can. And meanwhile, I'll put the vegetables back on that I turned off. Turn the heat up a little. And I'm actually going to saute the spinach now in with the vegetables. Let me put that spinach in there. Okay. And just sort of mix it in with the vegetables that are sauteing. You want to get the temperature back up because as soon as it gets up enough, you're going to put the eggs in. At this point, you can begin to put a couple of seasonings in as well. I'm going to sprinkle some of the garlic parsley. I'm going to do some of the adobo. And you notice I'm not really measuring. I'm doing a sprinkle. And I'll sprinkle a little bit of oregano. Now the cheese that goes in this goes in at the last moment. You don't put that in while it's sauteing. Okay, it looks like my eggs can go in. Put my eggs in. Now you're just going to let these eggs set. Okay, let me get rid of these eggshells. It's kind of gross. I'm back. It's off my working board. And now, check my eggs. They're setting nicely. Okay. You know, eggs you want to do on low to medium heat. You don't want to kill them. Okay, they're almost ready to put the cheese in. Okay, I have a cover for this, and I usually do cover it for a while. It helps the eggs set a little better. And again, we're going to put the cheese in. After the eggs seem completely set, we're going to sprinkle in, I think I wrote down a half a cup of cheese, but that's going to vary according to your taste and according to how it looks to you. You'll get better at this each time you make it. Okay, these look like they're pretty well set. Maybe I should show you what they look like. That's what they look like. Okay, they're pretty well set. All right, so now I'm going to add, this is about a cup of cheese, so I'm going to about half of that. You kind of cover the top of the eggs with cheese, and then you stir it in. Stir it in. And now this is the important part. Okay? The important part is turn off the heat now. Turn off the heat all the way and cover it. And you're going to let this sit for a little bit. And what I've found is when I let it sit, the eggs come off the bottom much easier. So I'm going to let this sit for a few minutes. To throw some things in the sink. To get my first burrito ready to roll. And I'm only going to show you one burrito because you really don't need to see me make 8 burritos, which is, this usually makes about between 6 and 8 burritos, and then I cut them up. So let's see if this is almost ready to fill the burrito. Let's look. Looking nice. Yes, and just as I said, it's coming up off the bottom of the pan. Just what I said. Now this is where I'm a bit of a taster. I will taste it now. If it seems to need a little bit more salt, which Goya has a lot of salt in it, you can add a little bit more of that. If it's the way you want it, then you can leave it. Let me try some. Tastes good. New spoon. Since I tasted, I need a new spoon. Here's my new spoon. Now you're going to take your burrito. You're going to put some filling right in the middle. You use your gloved hands to form it. Do it to the edge of the, like the, what do they call that, in the middle of the circle? The diameter. Go across the diameter. Then you're going to roll it. And now after it's rolled, what I usually do, I need a sharp knife. I get a knife and I cut it in about 3 pieces. Now this is ready to go into a little baking dish or a little plate. What I find is you really do have to cook these a little bit in, let's say, the microwave. That's how I've usually done it. I put them on a plate. I usually put about 10 on a plate. I put it in the microwave, cover it with paper, and cook it for about 1 minute to 2, and all the flavors blend, and it comes out great. And that's a quick way to do it. If you make them ahead of time, you can actually put them in a baking dish, freeze the whole dish, and when you're ready, defrost it, then put them in the oven for about 20 minutes on a lowish oven, like maybe 300, 325, and they'll come out just as good. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this little lesson. I hope you try these. They're really good. And maybe we'll see each other again on another video. Bye.